Have to go back and get the qua. Can't record an episode without one of these, if you know what I mean. Passion fruits. I have a passion for the fruits. Today, talking cinema. Hey y'all. So what is cinematic? Well, to define what cinematic means, it's the visual qualities or aesthetics of a film or video. But what does it really mean? A deeper answer is using intentional artistic choices in lighting, camera, movements, color, editing, etc. to tell a story, evoke emotions, and create an experience beyond mere realism. To be honest, it's kind of a subjective term. It's just something you know and feel. It's the difference between watching a movie and watching a commercial. They just feel different. Movies are telling a story and commercials are trying to sell you something. This day and age, our brains are hardwired to pick up on this. We love stories and we don't like being sold to. Our species has evolved in a way that telling stories is sewn into our DNA. Our brain chemistry literally changes when we are told a story. It engages with more parts of the brain and releases cortisol, oxytocin, and dopamine. Being sold to does not do the same to the brain. It can cause fatigue, stress, and anxiety. So when we see something that feels just cinematic, brains get happy. After 100 years of cinema, movies have primed our brains for storytelling in many subtle ways. One of those ways is the black lines on the top and the bottom of the screen. See here. Did you notice them in this video? Do you know what those are and why they exist? It kind of seems silly nowadays not to, fill our whole screen with a picture. But whenever we see them, we know we are in for something special. We get drawn in. Well, these lines are a remnant of a technology developed for film that has evolved into so much more than just a workaround. Today, we're talking anamorphic lenses. Anamorphic type lenses are a big contributing factor to the cinematic look. They have a lot of character to them. What that means is they don't produce a super clean and precise image with tack-sharp optics, no artifacting, and minimal lens flaring. How they get character comes from the design. They are made with cylindrical or curved optics instead of spherical or flat optics. These cylindrical optics squeeze the image into the recorded camera. This makes the image distorted vertically. It doesn't look right. So in post-processing, you de-squeeze the image, correcting the distortion. However, because we are recording on the entire size of the sensor, after de-squeezing, we have this leftover negative space above and below our image. And that's how we get the black bars. There's a bunch of different squeeze factors, including 1.33x, 1.5, 1.8, and 2x squeeze. The squeeze factor determines the level of anamorphic effect the image has, including the crop factor or aspect ratio. Now, if you don't have an anamorphic lens, you can still get this effect by cropping in on your image or change the output banking in your editing software. However, that's not the only cinematic quality of an anamorphic lens. Because the image was recorded through a curved piece of glass, there are a few other knock-on effects that this causes. First, and most notably, is the classic lens flare. Everybody knows the lens flare, even if it's subconscious. This effect is caused by a direct source of light being wrapped around the front curved element. If the curved element is in the back of the lens, you're likely to get less flaring, like in my Z-mount Siri autofocus anamorphic lenses like this one. I'm actually shooting on the 20mm autofocus anamorphic right now. This is a classic effect that can come in a few different color options. The classic blue anamorphic is my favorite. Another characteristic that anamorphic lenses have are what they do to the bokeh. Everybody loves some good bokeh. The curved element of the anamorphic causes that bokeh to kind of stretch out a bit. This is more subtle than the lens flaring, and average non-filmmakers won't notice typically, but I like it. There's also a subtle effect that anamorphics give the whole scene. The compression of the element gives you longer focal length views vertically and wider focal length views horizontally. If I'm shooting on my 40mm with a 1.33x squeeze factor, I'm getting 40mm vertically and about a 30mm horizontally. You can figure out that value by dividing your lens focal length by the squeeze factor. Another characteristic of anamorphic lenses is the type of distortion. There are two types. There's barrel and there's pincushion. The types of distortion come from the lens design. All of this adds up to a totally different look from a spherical lens, and I love it, probably because most movies have been shot on anamorphic lenses. I mean, everything you grew up watching, anamorphic. Look y'all, I'm not a historian. There are videos out there that cover the history in way better detail than I'm gonna do here, so here's the Cliff Notes or the TLDR. First patent comes from a guy named Paul Rudolph back in 1898. He was trying something different, but it wasn't really related to film and it didn't catch on. In 1910, an Italian guy named Ernesto Zollinger took a stab at it. This time, it was related to film. He was trying to squeeze more footage into a roll of film by squeezing it horizontally, but squeezing horizontally wasn't the right move either. During World War I, Henry Chrétien used the tech again, but this time in tanks so that the tank drivers had a wider field of view. 10 years after the war ended, Henry filed the patent for a new design of anamorphic film squeezing. This time it was vertically squeezed. And now we're moving in the right direction. At this time, the tech was not taking off. It hadn't found its audience yet. After World War II, cinemas were competing with the advent of television. They were doing everything they could to stay afloat. The idea was to differentiate themselves, to look at cinemas as an event. They started experimenting with wider formats to create immersive experiences. First big step in this direction was in 1952 with Cinerama. Cinerama is a wild format that's filmed on 3 separate cameras and projected by 3 separate projectors. It was the ultimate widescreen experience, similar to ScreenX, which I haven't tried yet. Audiences were blown away by the fully immersive experience. Cinemas were back, baby. But filming on 3 giant cameras all at once and stitching it all back together in the theater, it just isn't exactly cost effective. And this couldn't be replicated to mass scale. At the time, 20th Century Fox bought up all the patents to Henry's anamorphic lenses and started playing around with them. They released the CinemaScope lens system. It was an easy way to condense footage into film reels to give the now popular widescreen view that everyone wanted. Win-win, right? This tech wasn't exactly perfected yet. The lenses were kind of clunky, they had poor focus, and just overall bad image quality. But where there is a demand, supply will come. In 1954, Panavision is founded. They brought in a new line of lenses called the Auto Panatar. There's so many classic films that were filmed on these lenses, including Ben-Hur, It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, and most recently, Quentin Tarantino's The Hateful Eight. A bunch of other companies rose up to compete as well, and the anamorphic lens took off. Anamorphic lenses then became the industry standard. Standard is still in place today. Now that you know, you won't be able to unsee it. Up until a few years ago, anamorphic lenses were really expensive, difficult to get hold of, difficult to use, especially for small-time filmmakers. Now there's a ton of lens manufacturers making really inexpensive, high-quality anamorphic lenses in a wide variety of focal lengths and squeeze factors. We're even starting to see some autofocus anamorphic lenses. I'm currently shooting on the 20mm autofocus Siri anamorphic on my Nikon Z9. There are a few zoom anamorphic lenses out there, but they're pretty pricey. Maybe someone will make some less expensive zoom anamorphic lenses? Siri, I'm looking at you. I've been obsessed with anamorphic lenses for over half a decade now. It started when Siri came onto the scene with their line of inexpensive anamorphic lenses back in February of 2020. The first lens was a 50mm f1.8 1.33x micro four third mount. And I just so happen to have a micro four thirds mount on my Blackmagic Pocket 4K. I first tested them out in early 2021 for the Grave Shadow Soldier of 34 music video shoot. This was my first big project post-COVID, and I wanted to go all out. So I found a set to rent nearby. When I put that lens on my camera for the first time, I was blown away. I couldn't believe what a difference it was making. I was hooked. A few years later, Sirui released their Mars kit of lenses, and I bought it. The kit came with a 24, 35, 50, and 75mm 1.33x squeeze lenses. I've shot most of my projects in the past 4 years on those lenses. Now don't get me wrong, I still shoot on spherical, but it just depends on the project. To be honest, I haven't had the opportunity to shoot on anything other than the lenses I own, which are all 1.33x squeeze, so I haven't gotten to try 1.5 or 1.8 or 2x or anything like that. I'd love to try some other squeeze factor lenses, but I'm pretty partial to the 2.39 aspect ratio. Someday I'll try some other lenses out, and be sure to follow because you'll see that on this channel. So, if you want to get into anamorphic lenses, here are a few tips. You can find anamorphic lenses for just about every camera mount these days. If you have some of the popular brands like Canon or Sony, you'll have more options available. The squeeze factor depends on your preferences. The greater the squeeze, the greater the anamorphic effect. The aspect ratio on your sensor makes a big difference too. If your camera's aspect ratio is 16:9, 1.33x and 1.5x lenses tend to work best. If you have a camera that shoots on open gate or 3x2, you can use the 1.5x lenses, the 1.8 and the 2x lenses more effectively. Most of these lenses are manual focus. There are a few autofocus anamorphic lenses on the market, but they are few and in limited focal lengths and in limited mount options. If you have a Canon, you're SOL. If you don't have options for dealing with manual focus, you should get prepared for that. I have the DJI focus motor on my gimbal back here and the tilt-to-focus motor on my rig. There are a wide variety of solutions for this, or just pull focus with your hand. Doesn't really make a difference. Make sure you figure out your D-squeeze on your camera or your monitor. My Nikon doesn't have a D-squeeze option, which is really dumb. Come on, Nikon. It's a huge pain in the ass, so I have to D-squeeze in the monitor. My Blackmagic and Canon cameras have D-squeeze, but I don't have any Canon mount anamorphics. Trying to frame a shot with this squeezed image sucks. It's hard to get a feel for the scene when everything is so stretched out. It'll make your life easier, just trust me. And that's all I've got for you today. Have you shot on anamorphics? Do you want to shoot on anamorphics? Let me know down below. And bingo, freaking bango.